Hey guys, this is Ryan. The other day I woke up and I decided to take the train to a pen shop. Uh, I went to the MONAMI pen shop, which is a Korean brand, and as you can see, I had the store almost entirely to myself to peruse through all these juicy pens. Um, And then after I bought a few pens, it started raining quite a bit. And on the way home, I stopped at this quaint little tea house and had a hot cup of tea um, before I came home to look at my pens. So I bought 4 pens in total. I bought 3 ballpoint pens and then one felt tip, sort of like a Sharpie pen. The 153 is a ballpoint pen, and the name pen is similar to a Sharpie. And the black and white 153 is the iconic MONAMI ballpoint pen. Uh, the other 2 ballpoint pens are also 153, but just a different uh, colorway, like a special MONAMI shop colorway that I don't think you can get in the other uh, stores that sell pens in the area. So I don't usually draw with ballpoint pens. I usually prefer like a darker, crisper, more high contrast line. But I do like taking notes with those, and I didn't own any of the Korean ones, so I thought it'd be interesting to pick a few up. Um, but for drawing here, I'm actually using the name pen, uh, which it's a little finer than your standard Sharpie, um, but it's very similar, aside from probably the smell, which I couldn't smell at all. I don't know if you're like me, but every time I draw with an actual Sharpie brand Sharpie, the smell is always kind of overwhelming. And I have so many memories of being a kid and playing with my dad's Sharpies that he used for work and having that really strong, pungent Sharpie smell. Probably had my face too close to the paper I was drawing on. But these didn't really have any type of smell at all, which was quite nice. And you can see here I started drawing some type of skyline, which is pretty comfortable for me to draw when I'm just testing out and wanting to get a feel for the type of pen that I'm using, and doing a little bit of hatching and just seeing what type of lines I can get out of it. And then I moved on to doing kind of a more free-form, just pure doodle. So Monami, I think, to me is interesting because their company, I believe, was founded in 1960, and the ballpoint pens that I showed earlier, it's the same ballpoint pen that they made and sold in 1960. So if you go inside of any office or school, or if you ever looked at the stationery that a student is using in Korea, it's probably going to have a Monami pen in there somewhere. They're extremely popular here. And also what I thought was interesting was that I've never seen this type of pen anywhere in the US. Like I'd never heard of this brand before. I know I myself have a few Chinese pens, and I've seen a lot of German pens that I would like to buy if I had extra money to spend on pens. Or I guess I'm already spending money on pens, but if I had an exorbitant amount of money to spend on pens. And I've seen a lot of Japanese pens, but I hadn't seen a lot of Korean pens, so I was curious to try these out. So this is kind of just a mindless doodle, which I enjoy doing these because you don't really have to plan them out like a lot of drawings. You can kind of just start doing something and then see where it goes. And sometimes at the end it does kind of end up looking like something, which this one sort of did. I found that it's harder for me to read as much as I used to. I feel like when I was a kid, especially between the ages of like, I would say 8 years old to 13 years old, I read so many books. Like I know we were challenged at school to read, as many books as possible, and of course, like books like the Harry Potter series, and kind of caters to that age group. But as I've gotten older, I don't read as much, and I've thought about why that is. I feel like it's a combination of things. One is that we have smartphones now, which can provide endless entertainment of just scrolling through nothing of any importance at all. And I guess I do read on my phone sometimes. I read articles or I read the news. But I also feel like I just don't have as much time to read as I used to. Of course, drawing is not something that I have to do, and it's not something I do every day, so I could read instead of draw. But I just feel like now I spend a lot of my time working and occasionally drawing and also studying language, which I've been kind of doing since I live in a place that speaks a different language than what I grew up speaking. But if anybody has any good book recommendations, feel free to leave them below. I think the last book that I read was Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. That's kind of another thing. I feel like as I've gotten older, I gravitate more towards nonfiction books. It's almost like reading fiction is like watching a fantasy movie to me. It's just not, I don't know. I feel like I have this syndrome where I feel like I have to be productive all the time, and fiction just seems as if it's pure entertainment. But of course, reading has benefits outside of just gaining the knowledge that's in it. Can improve your vocabulary, or I'm sure it can be therapeutic, and people enjoy it for that reason. But when I read the last book that I read, I was working in an office and taking the bus to work every day, and probably spending 15 to 20 minutes on the bus each way. And I would read on the bus, which, wasn't a whole lot of time, but that's 30 or 40 minutes of reading a day, and I was surprised how quickly I could finish a book in that way. When I got towards the end of this drawing, I drew a few stilts that the shapes were kind of standing on, and then I thought, well, it kind of looks like legs. So I gave them some little shoes. I felt like it looked like two futuristic figures dancing with each other in some far off galaxy somewhere. So it was raining the day that I went shopping for these pens, and then now it's raining again today when I'm recording this. It's been a very rainy, wet summer. And it's funny because usually I take vitamin D during the winter time and don't usually worry about it that much in the summer, but this summer I've actually taken a little bit of vitamin D here and there. It's just been so cloudy. We actually had a typhoon a few days ago, and then today they said on the news that there's going to be another typhoon next week. And I wasn't sure the difference between a typhoon and a hurricane, but apparently it's the same thing. It's just where it's located determines what it's called. So when I finished this, I actually scanned it with my iPhone and then used an app to add a little color in the background just to brighten it up a little bit. Well, I guess that about does it for the MONAMI name pen. Goodbye.